Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. Today we are doing another fan request, and it is for the 1988 horror comedy The Lair of the White Worm. Here is your trivia question for today. What board game are Lady Sylvia Marsh and Kevin playing on the floor? The answer will be at the end of this video. Our story centers around two couples. We have Lord James Dampton and Eve Trent, and we have Angus Flint and Mary Trent. Angus, who is played by Peter Capaldi, is an archaeology student who happens to dig up a skull of a very interesting creature that may have been a dinosaur, but more than likely is something else altogether. Now, sometime recently before this occurrence, Eve and Mary's parents disappeared. Apparently, though, a pocket watch that belonged to their father recently was found in a cave. The strange part about this is he was last seen near a manor in the woods. Now, that manor he was near actually belongs to Lady Sylvia Marsh, who just so happens to recently have come back into town. Now, Sylvia starts to do some very odd things, as apparently she is a snake woman! And she starts turning some of the local townspeople into snake people! Now, once we've gotten a little ways into the story, she manages to kidnap Eve, and then eventually she manages to kidnap Mary as well. She plans on sacrificing both of them to a snake god named Dionin. Now it's up to James and Angus to save the day and stop Lady Sylvia Marsh. Throughout the film, there seems to be three big themes: religion, sex, and snakes. The actual concept for this movie, though, is loosely based off of the book The Lair of the White Worm by Bram Stoker. Now, Bram Stoker was more than likely inspired by an old English tale called the Lambton Worm, and of course in this story it's called the Dampton Worm. Ken Russell is the director for this film, and technically makes a brief appearance. When police officer Ernie is speaking to his partner through his walkie-talkie, his partner is actually the voice of Ken Russell. There are a lot of fun hidden things that you may not notice throughout the movie. For instance, at the dinner party near the beginning, there's a sequence where a fake white worm comes out onto the dance floor and it goes to attack Eve. This is foreshadowing the fact that Eve is going to be the first one sacrificed to Dionin. There's also so many sexual innuendos throughout the entire film. Watch through it and you'll notice there's tons of them. There's also quite a few religious references throughout the film. I mean, come on. We have Eve and we have Mary right here. The worm skull that they actually have in this film is just a regular cow's skull that they've added some extra stuff to make it look more elongated, and they've added some fake fangs to the teeth area. Apparently, when making the head of Dionin, they started off with the hood of a Volkswagen Beetle and just built around it from there. Amanda Donahoe does such a great job as Lady Sylvia Marsh, but apparently that role almost went to Tilda Swinton. Technically, Peter Capaldi and Hugh Grant have both played the character Doctor Who. Peter Capaldi, of course, was actual canon as he played Doctor Who in the TV series, but Hugh Grant played Doctor Who for a comic relief sketch called The Curse of Fatal Death in 1999. Two last things I have to say about this movie. Number one, I don't actually know if this song is good, but it's good enough that it got stuck in my head and I can't stop hearing it. And secondly, Stratford Johns, who plays Peters in this movie, is so creepy. I would definitely put him up in like top 5 creepiest butlers I've ever seen in a movie. So when it comes to my opinion on The Lair of the White Worm, I do have to say it's okay. It's not a great movie, but at least going into it, I had the understanding that it was a horror comedy. It wasn't hilarious, it didn't really make me laugh, but at least the ridiculous concept made more sense because of that. So I'm going to give this film a 2 out of 5. Now, as for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode, what board game are Lady Sylvia Marsh and Kevin playing on the floor? Well, to go with the very obvious theme anytime Lady Sylvia Marsh is around, they are playing the board game Snakes and Ladders. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews. If there is a movie you'd like to get a review, just mention it in the comments. And as always, like, comment, share, and subscribe.